Good morning, Ravenna Truth Ministries, family and friends. Welcome to this Tuesday morning Deeper Dive Live. We are in the Peace Garden. We got Pastor Brian in the building.
Yeah.
Give it up for that.
Yeah.
The staff is here. They're here. The livest live audience in all of Tampa Bay is in the building. You're here, and we welcome you to the Deeper Dive. You know, the Deeper Dive gives us the opportunity to attend to the things that God has said to us. We've determined to be people who are most blessed. We're taking a deeper dive from Sunday's message. First off, great weekend, right? And
Wow.
man, you know, I watched the service online.
Yeah. Okay.
And along with a lot of, I know we had, I was just wondering, like, what was it like in the building? I know we had the men were in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You flew back to do what you did here, and you did it. And what was it like? We're coming towards the end of Peace Within.
Yeah.
But I could hear people. I could hear people shouting. I could hear the people with you.
Yeah.
But what was it like Sunday morning?
Which, you know, which is so funny. I could say it's probably twice as loud in the sanctuary than what you hear online.
Right.
And so, like, in the sanctuary, was like a joyful atmosphere.
Yeah.
I could say it, it went to, like, I love when, like, the sanctuary switched to, like, this attitude level.
Yeah.
When everybody's like, I just ready to go out and punch something that's been trying to threaten me, right?
Right.
It went to...
We ready?
It went to that level, and then there were so many cool moments.
So I want to just bring
Yeah.
one in, because I know this was, like, maybe a highlight of the day. We heard about Mike.
Oh, Mike, yeah.
Right? And it's amazing. Mike made it to service.
Yeah.
But I thought that, Mike's business is already out there, kind of.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about how Mike helped make such a moment, because in the message, one of the things that was identified is that we shouldn't be, like, running from the times that we live in. Like, all of us see it. If you're above age 35 or so, you see that things aren't the same. Like, things aren't the way that they used to be. And I just picture Mike, man, sitting in front of the church, rolling up a J. And it's like, dang, once upon a time, this would not be. Like, people would not even think about doing this, but here we are.
Right. And I would say, like, I talked to Mike, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, Mike was so just, like, dope. Like, Mike is dope.
Mm-hmm.
And so even towards, like, he care less about, like, what people's opinions are. He just had that kind of, like, yo, man, I'm just out here, man.
Yeah.
And so, but the part, right, that I thought was cool, I went back and looked at the photo, and Mike was sitting in the tollway zone. And it just was, like, so symbolic to me to, like, man, like, there's so many people that are sitting in a tollway zone that we just think have no usefulness, right? And if you saw Mike, like, he wasn't in the skating ring, like, it just looked like he just came to just chill out, like, and you know, I know he probably doesn't. He thought the church was in the building in front. And so he was like, yo, is that, he said, so you want me to meet in here? I was like, oh, that's the youth building. The church is over there. And so, like, I mean, Mike is just Mike, man. He's a cool dude.
Right.
And so, but yeah, I would say it does, right? That we think times have changed.
Right.
And as much as we want to confine what God can do to the times, God hasn't changed because of them.
the time.
But his grace is magnified in them.
Right.
And so it's like, man, even in that moment, Mike was so receptive, right? He was, I would say that's probably something that many people wouldn't imagine, is that, like, people are far more receptive than you can believe to hear the gospel.
Right.
It's good news, right?
Right. So, yes, Mike was receptive of what you had to say that night. He came on Sunday and heard what was said on Sunday too. But also, just for the folks who are listening to Deeper Dive and the people who are present here, I want to point out your receptiveness to the moment, because the challenge for the believer is to push back on moments that faith has brought them to in fear or anxiety of being uncomfortable or wondering what would people say, or this doesn't fit my idea of church or whatever the situation may be, right? But embracing, you received in that moment, you're receptive to what it was too. Right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I guess it probably could run a little deeper than that. But it's like, I don't know. I just look for adventures in life. That's the best way I can put it. Like, I'm always looking to embrace what wasn't on the schedule. What I always looking to see what God is doing, and we talk about it as believers, but I find that, man, it's so hard for us to break our patterns.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, my thought is, man, if I'm not on the bus with the men coming back, what of value am I doing? And so it's like, when I saw Mike, it was like immediately before
That's
we
it,
even
right
said a
there.
word, I was like, man, that's it.
Right. This the
And so it's like, man, I just embrace all those moments whenever I'm off script or off schedule to say, like, God, why am I off script? Why am I off schedule? Let me be open to what you would want to do at this moment,
Right.
and bring value to what I think is off schedule.
Yeah.
And
so I hate to, I mean, I don't want to point out the obvious if I don't need to point out the obvious. So there's people that are here. Y'all can let me know. If this is obvious, let me know. But if this is eye-opening, let me know that too. Because right now, what you're saying and what's being poured out right now, like, sits right on top of what we see Jesus doing in that moment with his disciples, right?
That's dope.
The disciples are running the script.
Right.
This is the script. Okay, we're wanting to get away, take a break from ministry. Okay, the people found us. Now let's plan out, let's script out what we should do, how we should respond.
Yeah.
Send them back to the city so that they can get something to eat. But faith has them do something that's off script. Like, no, we can feed them. Jesus brings them to that place. Which how often, how many times in our day-to-day are we brought to places that are off script? Because that's what Jesus would do.
Yeah, and we talked about this on Sunday too, right? That many people are believing in an Ephesians 3:20 God, who can do exceedingly abundantly above all they can think, ask, or imagine.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, well, of course, you got to think about that. If you're saying God's going to do
That's good.
what you didn't think of and what you didn't imagine, that means at some point something off of your schedule is going to have to take place.
Right.
And how willing are you to embrace what's unfamiliar?
Yeah.
Right? Because in order for Ephesians 3:20 to come true, at some point in your life, you're going to have to embrace something that you didn't think of, something you didn't imagine, and something that wasn't on your plan. But as believers, we get to those moments and we're more hesitant than we are curious. And I know we don't like to use the word curious a lot, but it's just saying I have a positive outlook on what I don't understand, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious about what this could be. And man, oftentimes, man, like, your curiosity will lead to great things in God. Just you being inquisitive about how something works, you diving into the backdrop of what's going on can open up doors you couldn't even imagine.
Yeah,
right?
I like curiosity. I like that word. And you talk about how Jesus has already provided, or peace has already prepared us ahead of time, before the fork in the road, before the anxious moment comes. We've already been supplied with what we need ahead of time. And oftentimes when I think about, opportunities to be curious, what causes you to go down that path is when you're already considering what you've already been supplied with, or who you with. Like, I mean, if I think any of us, if we consciously consider that I'm not walking down this dark path, even if it is a dark path, I'm not walking it down the unknown alone, but I'm walking it with Jesus. So me and Jesus gonna find out what's down this path. I think it'll put us in a position, that way of thinking will put us in a position where we're more ready to embrace things that aren't on the script, aren't familiar to us.
And when you wake up with the filter of, like, man, today God produced this day for me to enjoy.
Yeah.
Then you realize that, man, there's something God has for me. And some of the things that are the greatest gifts from God are the things that you didn't plan. So it's like it's almost like if my day happens just the way I thought it should have happened, almost like, man, shoot, what did I miss? Right. Like, man, I was waiting for something unexpected to happen, but everything happened just the way I thought it would. Right. That's a boring day to me. Some people think, like, man, that's great. I'm like, no, man. Like, the greatness is in those unexpected moments that Jesus brings to you, that curiosity has you explore what it could be. And I mean, that right there is to understand that, man, God has designed this day for me. And there's things in it that will supply me beyond what I even imagined I needed supply of, right? And
But that's something I don't know if we think about enough. I think that if we were to ask people to survey their lives, and the moments that were most meaningful to many of us were moments that were unexpected. I didn't plan it, and it happened. But maybe because of the feelings that we have as we approach those moments are so strong that we would rather, in some ways, like not have them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so-
like because I was, oh man, the anxiety, the fear, all of those things.
Right.
I'm trying to avoid that. Right?
yeah, right. Everybody's trying to avoid, and that was the whole even week 1, week 2. Everyone's trying to avoid what's unavoidable.
Yeah.
And you have to stop trying to avoid what's unavoidable, right? And it's like, man, and that's why every service I just be giving examples of how I felt anxious about something, how I felt fearful about something. Why? Because it's not about the feeling; it's about what you did next, right? Like it's
Right.
unavoidable. And many people are trying to live a managed life to try to avoid what's unavoidable.
Right.
That's why they would say, man, I did exactly what I planned to do today, and today is a great day because I did exactly what I planned to do, because your life goal is to live a manageable life. But here's the thing, you can't manage your life on the level God wants you to live it, right? Like only God can manage your life on the life he wants you to live it
That
on,
was
right?
a bar. I don't know if they caught that.
I'll say again,
Yes,
you can't
please.
manage your life on the
Right.
level God wants you to live it on.
Right.
Right? Like in order for you to live on the level God wants you to live on, you have to lose management of your own life. Right? You know, you have to, deeper word, submit your will to his way, right? And until you do that, man, you are living below the standard God has set for you to live on. And so to me, like, man, like Ephesians 3:20, something I didn't think of, something I didn't imagine needs to happen today.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And
the expectation.
that's the expectation, man. And that right there produces incredible levels of peace that you just couldn't understand. And we talked about a little bit on Sunday, and I really want people to see like the progression of it, right? That when you're anxious, that just simply means that, man, like there's too many undefined outcomes. Right. That's all it is, man. When you it's like if someone calls you like, what's wrong? They're like, it's a lot. That's anxiety, right? It's undefined. The impending danger has so many sources it could come from that now I'm anxious about everything.
Right.
Here's the thing. Once you define it, though, it just forms fear, because fear is once your anxiety has taken form. So you go from anxious to feeling like I know what it is now. Right. So it's
Yeah.
almost like I got these symptoms. Right. And so when someone's not feeling well and they get symptoms, now they're anxious about all the different things. They go on WebMD and it's like, man, I can either have a cold or cancer. Right. So now you're
Right.
you're anxious, right? Because you
Right.
don't know if you're going to have a cold or cancer. And you're like, whoa. Right. And so now you go to the doctor, go to an expert, which another principle is to help overcome anxiety. Sooner is better than later. The more you procrastinate, the greater the anxiety will be, because now the fear of the unknown is growing. Right. These are just I'm telling people this because this is not spiritual. This is just natural.
This is
like,
a principle. So even
a
in my
principle.
moment of anxiety, if I procrastinate or if I allow anxiety, which I think often happens, I allow anxiety to paralyze me.
Right.
And I just stay in it, then I am further amplifying the anxiety, the anxious feeling.
Right. And I tell people all the time, like, what is stagnation, right? What leads to stagnation is when you believe that two opposing outcomes are possible.
Right.
Anytime you believe that two opposing outcomes are possible, you will be rooted in stagnation. What do I mean by that? Like when you believe that you can fail and be victorious at the same time.
Right.
Like, and there's many
You're
people
not
that
gonna
live like
move.
that. You have
Right.
you have equal belief that you can overcome as you do you can fail. Right? So you're literally believing in two opposing outcomes as though they could be true.
Right.
That's why you are stagnant. That's why you're oscillating. That's why you're anxious. You have to eliminate one.
That's good.
And
Make a
even if-
decision. I hear
And
Pastor
even
Poe saying
if
make a
you're
decision.
sitting there like, man, if I had to eliminate one, it's I believe I'm really can fail. Okay, cool. Why do you believe you can fail? It's a lot. It can't be a lot. Break it down.
Right.
There's 5 reasons why I believe I can fail. Well, let's attack number 1, because now it's your giant against my giant.
Right.
Right? You know, and it's like you want to break that thing down. You want to move from anxiety. This is gonna sound crazy to people. You want to move from anxiety to fear.
Yeah.
But get out of anxiety. Anxiety is an unknown immeasurable. I can't track it down. No. Get from anxiety into fear. What is fear? I know people are like, what is he saying right now, right? You telling me to, I'm not telling you to fear. You ain't got the spirit of fear, but you fear. So whatever, judge yourself, right? And so you get from anxiety to fear. Make whatever you're anxious about be something that you can tangibly understand. If you're fearing running out of money, boom, there you go. That's a good one. If you're fearing your education is not enough, write them down though. The list can be 10 long. Doesn't matter. Make sure you're not living with it's a lot.
Right.
Get out of it's a lot. That's my point. Get into a number.
Because it's not identified, it's not specific. What are you aiming at?
What are you aiming at? Like that's where Satan wants you to exist in that anxious world. Right? Because now you're fearing everything. Yeah. Right? So then write it down. Once you've written down what it is, and now you've given your anxiety some form, that is called fear, because this is what you're fearing.
Yeah.
Now your goal is say my giant against your giant.
Yeah.
If it's financial, what does the word say about finances?
Right.
If it's your resume, what does the word say about your resume? If it's your family, what does the word say about your family? Now it's giant against giant.
Got it.
Now you swinging, I'm swinging.
Yeah.
Right. And now I can conquer this fear, but I got to go from anxiety to fear to victory. Right. And that's.
Well, I want to talk about this too.
Okay.
So, because this is not like this is a process you do with your help, with the Holy Spirit, with Jesus, with the Word. You go through this process with your help, not by yourself. You're not trying to understand this alone, but you're going through this process with your help. It reminds me of something that you said a few Sundays back, where our peace doesn't conceal, but it reveals.
Yeah.
So that
it can heal.
Exactly.
Right. So the first job of peace is to reveal what it is that is capping you or containing you. Right. Jesus wants to cast it as far as the east is from the west.
Right.
He wants you to know what you through. Many people don't know what they through. Right. They just, man, they just like, man, I feel better. Right. And it's like, no, you can't just feel better. And one of the things I told the men in Atlanta was when we were all that was going there, it's like, man, we can't stop at what has been revealed. We got to stop once we've been healed. And a lot of times we celebrate once what's been revealed. Right. Like we celebrate that. Oh man, I know, man. It's just a cold. Well, that doesn't change the fact that there's things you have to do in order to continue the healing process. Yes, it's not cancer. Great. That's relief. Yeah. Right. It's not cancer. It's a cold. Well, then, right, what does anxiety, what would anxiety do? Have you look up how many people have died from a cold, right? It will
it's not going to stop playing.
It's not going to stop.
Right.
Right? It's not going to stop. And I would say most certainly, right, it's a journey at this point. I'm going to say it this way, Pastor Mar. I want to say it this way. It's a journey at this point that, yes. And I would say this does depend on like your relationship with God. It's a journey at this point that I could say me and Jesus walk together frequently. However, I would say even I get to points where I need expert advice. You know, it's like, man, I don't know how to break down what I'm anxious about. And I have multiple things that I can't even like hone it into one. I just know I'm feeling overwhelmed in the attack.
Right.
And there's been times where people, my mom, Rashida, my brother Greg, like that I'll talk to, and I need expert advice, right? Because, man, in a lot of times when I'm doing counseling with people, one of the greatest moments of peace that I give them is I have the privilege of talking to a wide variety of people, and so I can tell them what's normal. Sometimes what we're fearing is normal for the journey we're on.
Got it.
Right? You know, you got to know what's normal.
Because part of the anxiety is that it's unique, right, or something that you're dealing with.
Yeah, right. No, I speak to people. Some people come to me and ask me about just like public speaking because they see me do it every week. And they're like, man, how do you get over being nervous about what you're doing? I said, no, you don't. That's normal. And so now they're not trying to overcome what's normal.
Right.
There's things that are normal about the path you're taking. I like, you have to know what's normal, right? And of course, I deal with a lot of creatives, So insecurity is normal in that path. Why? Because you're not because what you're doing is crazy. You're just first a lot. And so it's like because of that, you just you but don't fight what's right. That's the point, right? Like, man, I see a lot of creatives adopt the mindset of, well, they don't have to appreciate it. No, you're doing it so people can appreciate it. Like, that's a lie. Like, you want to be appreciated for your artwork. Don't lie to yourself, because that forms a callousness around your heart. And once that callousness is around your heart, what you create will never pierce anybody's heart. Yeah. Like, you want people to enjoy what it is you create. And so there's always going to be a sense of nervousness when you're revealing what you did, because that's the part you have to learn to enjoy. Yeah. Right?
That's good. You gonna stop right there? That was a good thought. No, I thought there was coming. I thought there was more. You were speaking to the creators.
Oh no! So every Sunday, every Sunday, you know, every Sunday I feel like I'm putting my life on the line.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
But I've learned to embrace it, not run from it, because what I can't do, and I hear a lot of pastors say this. And I realized when I start like having some of that same type of terminology, and I had to cut it off. Right. Like that's wrong. Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can hear them preaching their fears, and I'll be like, oh man, that person's scared preaching, and I can hear it because I'm like, oh man, I had that same thought, but I didn't let it come out my mouth. Right. 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 And it's in the, like, you know. And I don't care, and it's up in that, and I gotta say what, and all of that, and it's like, where's that energy coming from? Like, you do care about these people. That's why you spend all that time studying. Exactly. Right? You do want them to get what you're saying. That's why you're preaching it, right? Like, you
do care.
You do care.
Because that's the point that I wanted to get to, even with naming it. Sometimes we mislabel it, and you try to say that you don't care, and then it comes off like that. But the truth is, you care. You care. The reason for the nervousness and all of those feelings before you do what it is that you're doing, before you present what you've created, is because you care. And that's a good thing. Yeah. Like, caring is a good thing. But properly name it so that no, I care this much.
Listen. And you're living somewhere in the balance, right? Like, you know, the Bible tells us, be careful when all men speak well of thee. But you want some to, right? Not, you know. Paul says, I do all things to all men so that I can win some. Like, Paul was like, listen, I'll morph in a minute, you know, to win somebody, you know? Yeah. And I think that is the part of us that you learn to embrace. I like to say it this way, 2 minutes left. Like, if I'm truly living at the maximum level of being a vessel, then there's parts of me that I even embrace as new, right? Yeah. And it's like, as a vessel, I'm praying that God fills me with what you need. Yeah. And so I'm hoping what I'm pouring out is nourishing you. And it's like, that can be the feelings you feel in that moment. I found that a lot of it is just rooted in your past. And that's what sometimes you'll need an expert person, right? Because if you have a history of, like, people just always condemning who you are, then it's going to be some healing that needs to take place as you continue. But I would say stay away from trying to create calluses around your heart. You know, man, because I pray that you never get to the point where you become insensitive to people, so that you can protect your own like self-worth. You know, I don't have to build a wall of a barrier in between me and people to protect my self-worth. And that's what a lot of people do. They're building barriers in between themselves and people to protect their self-worth. No, man, I like, man, there's some people, I hope they appreciate who I am, you know, starting with my wife, right? She texts me after messages, and, you know, and she'll be like, man, you know, that was a great message, and man, I'm happy when I hear those things. And my mom and my sisters and my brothers, like, man, like, you know, we need to feel appreciated. And I see a lot of people, because they've, you know, had bad interactions, they try to now protect their self-worth by not allowing people to get in. But some people got to get in. right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah, you can clap that up. That's good. Felt like it was therapy session. It was
right?
good. It was very
I
therapeutic.
remember, and I would, backdrop, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and it was so dope when I got the backdrop of it. But remember, there was a long season when my dad, before he would get up and preach, he used to say every service, "This is about to be the best message I've ever preached."
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because he was, and I asked him, I was like, "Dad, you saying that every week?" He said, "If I don't believe it is, they won't."
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm just starting my mind in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't ever want to step up there and not think that I'm not about to give the best that I have.
Mm-hmm.
But Satan will try to attack you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we all know that different messages have different outcomes, right? Some make you feel hurrah. Some
Mm-hmm.
are very, you know, my mom had to tell me when I first started doing a lot of teaching, she was like, "Brian, don't be afraid when the room gets silent. People are just thinking."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, but you know, in your mind, you want people to be clapping and whatever it is, right? But there's some moments where they are thinking. It is thought provoking,
Yeah.
and they are thinking through what you said.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned to get comfortable with like being silent. Sometimes I'll stop. Like, man, I enjoy it. Like I did it this Sunday, and I'll just pause, man, just to remind myself that like this ain't no performance. And so it was like, I want to say maybe 5 minutes into the message, I just kind of stopped and was scrolling through my notes. And in that moment, I was just telling myself, Brian, you're not here to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have to fill up every moment with a word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I just was scrolling like, man, let me go to this next notes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
y'all, where y'all going? We ain't going nowhere. Like, but I'm not going to sit here and perform.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to, I know you said it, you got to know yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And
Yeah.
anyway.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Wow. Who you with? That's one of the things I want to say. Remember who you with, right? through all the processing. I mean, before presenting who you are to the rest of the world, remember who you with.
Yeah, and that was one of the points, right? Because I told people, they were like, first of all, anybody that knows me, I love to plan. I'm an extreme planner. And so, but I tell all the time, but you have to know yourself. And I was telling some people, like, your planning is causing your anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and, you know, it's not that I'm telling people not to plan. It's like, you just have to know yourself. You got to know where you are. Are you entering are you entering into new days with the weight of yesterday not being the way you planned? Then it's time for you to know yourself.
Yeah.
Realize, man, this ain't feeding me. Right?
Right. That's good. That's good stuff. Good
Yes,
stuff.
sir.
Good Tuesday. Clap it up for that. That's good. Good stuff. Some things to think about this Tuesday as we head into this great week. Tomorrow is a valuable Wednesday. We'll catch you online. Man, I mean, every weekend is a weekend to look forward to when you are, there's any church, but especially here at Revealing Truth Ministry. So we're always excited about what's to come. But as we go through this day, we'll do so knowing that God loves us. We determined to continue to attend to the things that He said. Together we'll be most blessed. We love you. We'll see you soon.